Last time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
More Jemadar ships come through the wormhole every week.
It must stop.
It's going to stop.
How do we keep them out?
We're going to mine the entrance to the wormholes.
Mr. Worf, all weapons fire at will.
Prevent the Dominion from bringing any more reinforcements to Cardassia.
I've been waiting for this moment for 5 years.
Either you remove the mines, or we will take this station from you and remove them ourselves.
We've lost main power to the shields!
What are your orders, Captain?
We've done all we can here. Notify all remaining Starfleet personnel. We're evacuating the station.
So, the only reason I would, off the top of my head, the only reason why I can really think of there really being a difference necessarily between one thing and another is the Woman King, those people portrayed, depicted, right? They sold their people, right? However, I don't know if the people they sold, traded, whatever, I don't know how many of them were actually criminals, because I understand that some of them were. I can't say to what effect that they were, but I know that's something that is a possibility that a good portion of them were criminals or prisoners and, traitors to their people. I don't know. And with the Founding Fathers, the only thing I can really think is, okay, they needed workers, right? And they came to a place where it's like, I can offer you goods and services for people, right? Every single culture in the world, across the globe, every single one, they all engaged in some fucked up shit. I think most, if not all of those cultures, still developing also, by the way, practiced in using slaves for all kinds of shit, right? I think the Jews were slaves in Egypt, but I'm not quite sure. And so, should we have a problem with Egyptians on the same level? How long did a lot of this go for? How many casualties were there? Hell, fucking the Great Wall of China has dead people inside of it. The people that were made to work on the wall, they actually, a lot of them died. If I understand, they were actually used to make the wall stronger. I don't quite know to what degree that there is so much of that happened with the wall. That is, I understand it's something that did exactly happen. But yeah, there's enslavement shit, all kinds across the world, all kinds of cultures. So it's just, I can't just condemn the entire world because there are evil people on it. I can't just do that. Shit's bad, shit's good, right? It's, we all live here,
So, you do realize you just were talking about how the Woman Kings were slave traders and that's bad and we should never justify it. But then you started justifying the Founding Fathers being slavers and shit like that just because they need it. Don't you think that's a weird take?
Ducat wanted the station back, he can have it.
And now, the continuation.
This Organized Chaos video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you.
But did I justify it? That's not my intention.
You were saying that, hey, maybe they need jobs. Maybe they need stuff to be done. So they took some slaves.
Yeah, well, see, that's more I'm posing a question, right? Maybe they needed
what
that
about
stuff.
the Woman King? Maybe it's the same for them.
Right, but I'm not saying that the Founding Fathers are good or bad. I'm saying they were people with money and items, and they needed some dudes. And so they went and they got some dudes. I'm not applying a moral anything to that.
So you're applying a moral judgment to the Woman King because, they were slave traders. So you're applying that moral judgment saying you're not even going to watch that movie because they were slave traders. But you're willing to add nuance to the Founding Fathers being slave traders? Because they've been portrayed plenty of times.
So let me ask you a question, right? If you were to say one person was good and one person was evil, okay, of the two I'm going to present to you, who would you say is good and who would you say is evil? The guy selling drugs, the guy buying the drugs. Who would you apply that to? Who would you say is good? Who would you say is evil? The guy buying the drugs or the guy selling the drugs, right? If you were to say one's good and one is evil, right? If you were to have to do that.
I mean, it depends on the context, but just assuming everything's on the board, I would say neither's evil.
Neither is evil. Okay. So we understand that both if they're involving themselves in that, right? If they're involving themselves in slavery, they're both evil, right? Now, which one of those two groups, the Africans or the Europeans, which one of them is the supplier of the slaves and which one is the one supplying goods, right? Physical stuff for people, right? Who's supplying the people and who's supplying the stuff, right?
So you're arguing that European slavery is better because they're making stuff?
No. I'm just saying, okay, who of that group is evil? Because I'm not done asking the question. Who in that group is evil?
Well,
no tricks.
No,
no tricks.
Can we agree slavery is bad?
Of course, slavery is fucking bad, dude. Of course it's bad. But I'm asking, just answer the question. No tricks, seriously. We're walking through the logic, right? Remember this? We agree we're gonna do this. Okay. So one dude's selling slaves, and one dude is supplying goods and some amount of service, I suppose. Who is worse?
So you have one guy who has slaves who doesn't supply anything, and another person who has slaves who does supply stuff?
Okay, no, so one group, let's say that the Europeans arrived in Africa with no slaves at all, okay? It was all willing people, okay? So the Europeans come to Africa, right? And they see that Africa, they've got people, Europeans, they have stuff. Maybe they want to trade. They don't know what the Africans have because they've never been there before, I think. I don't know if there have been any reports at that time, but I'm just going to assume that they had no idea what was on Africa. They ended up there. They had no idea what was there. So they get there, and these people offer people for goods, right? Let's just say that we're trading cannonballs and the cannon itself to people over here, and they offer up people, right, as the trade, right? So the person supplying the trades, the person supplying the slaves, or the person supplying the cannon and cannonballs. Which person is evil of the two? Just then and there, right? Considering what's on the table.
I'm not sure what your point is, though.
It's okay. Like I said, no tricks. Just answer the question. Of the two, the European and the African fellows, that's the people, and the guy has the cannons and the cannibals. Who is evil of the two, pending what's being offered in trade?
Okay, so assuming the cannon and the cannonball were produced without any, slavery, and one person is a slaver, I would say slavery is bad. Yeah, slavery is bad, but, obviously weapons of war are probably going to be used to kill somebody. I mean, there's nuance to this question. I'm not even sure how it relates. We're literally talking about slave traders versus slave traders, and you seem to want to differentiate between African women slave traders and European slave traders as if the European are somehow better.
Right, but see, what I'm trying to get at is the different parts of the process, right? There's a lot to the transaction itself. Now, if we're saying slavery is bad, I'm going to say that you default to the position that the person offering the slaves is the person that is bad in this case, as opposed to the person offering a cannon and cannonballs in trade for things, right? The person offering the bodies, right? The slaves, the actual enslaved people as a trade item, I'm sure you would say is worse than the guy offering a cannon with cannonballs as a trade item. In that situation, would you say that is your position? I'm thinking it is, right?
It really, like I said, it depends. Okay, it depends on the nuance, man.
Okay, but just assume that the people who made the cannon and the cannonballs are willing participants in the creation of those items, right? The people who are slaves, right? So if if we are assuming that slavery is bad, if we are saying that slavery is bad, isn't it kind of fucked up to offer slaves as opposed to money, right? Or like a great shipment of wood, right? Would I'm sure you would prefer them use the shipment of wood as trade, right? Barter for the cannon and cannonballs. Instead, they use the humans. They could offer anything else but the human slaves as what they decided to give. So I'm going to have to assume that you would say the people who are offering the slaves in that trade are evil. I'm assuming that because that's what they decided to use to barter with the Europeans to get cannons and cannonballs. Okay?
Okay, I will play along and just say yes to see what you're going for.
Okay. So, that point, yes, the slavery was bad. Good. Glad we're from that point. So the person offering the slaves was the bad person. Now, the person still using the slaves, the person that has that, so they're evil, right? So if they are evil and they're using slaves, what's going into that things are just staying that way, right? Because there's manpower involved, right? So these people who left Europe, they had with them slaves. Now, I'm sure that what's the word? I'm sure that the specifics there. Sorry, I forget words sometimes. I'm sure that the specifics of the slaves' background. I'm sure that they were in that position somehow, right? I'm sure they were. So, people being used as slaves, right? My question for you now is, do you feel that ethical slavery is a thing?
No. But, like, dude, your whole argument is based upon people trading a cannonball for a slave, and somehow it's better to accept a slave in trade than to initially trade a slave. And I have bad news for you. If you have slaves, you're also trading slaves. Those go hand in hand. And also, it's still slavery.
Okay. So yes, it is still slavery. I'm not saying anything other than there are different parts to transactions like this, right? So yes, both are evil, right? Now, again, I'm sure maybe you have an opinion on this. I think you had already said ethical slavery. That's not really a thing, right? Do you agree with that?
Ethical slavery? Yeah, I don't see how that could exist.
Okay. So, from what I understand, okay, and maybe as it turns out, it's bullshit. But this is just from what I understand about the situation with the slave trade between Africa and Europe. From what I understand, and if someone could disprove this, that would be great. Maybe I'll actually even look it up again just to make sure that I don't have history fucked up, because I don't think about this often. But from what I understand, the people who were used in trade, from what I understand, a good number of them were criminals. And so that's why I'm asking if you believe that ethical slavery is a thing, because if you have criminals that aren't in captivity or whatever, if it's not being held, I don't know if captivity is the word, if they aren't being held somewhere, right? But they're instead in a new country. Right now, their life sucks, yes. Maybe it gets better later. Slavery is still fucked up, yes. But did those criminals end up with a better life because they left Africa? Maybe they became criminals because the people that they were fucking with were awful people. I don't know. Okay. Now, I'm not trying to say that necessarily slavery is good, but I've asked people a question like this before. If you would prefer that we be less developed, but slavery never existed, or would you want things how they are now, but because slavery existed? Like, that's a question I ask people. And this is why I debate these things, because, again, I dwell on these things for a good while. Maybe I'm a little weird to you, but again, it's because I'm neurotic, okay? I'm always thinking about things all the time. And that's why I have a lot to say. Listen, Robert, really, to you in your chat, sincerely, I do apologize because I do talk a lot. But I have so much to say to you guys. I have so much to say to everyone. I know I'm sorry. I could be obnoxious sometimes, but really, there is a lot to the situation. Yes, there's some dark, evil shit in the world. It's part of the reason I'm self-loathing. I could become anyone in the world, and part of that includes the worst of our kind. Okay, everyone is still getting better, but there's a lot to all this, right? That's why I ask these questions. That's why I care about them, right? I'm not trying to get you to agree to some shit like maybe slavery is okay in some contexts, right? But when I do ask some of these questions, people are surprised by what they find out about themselves, right? That's why I ask hard questions like that. Like, would you prefer to be in a less developed world if it meant there was no slavery? I feel like you may say yes, but I don't know. Your entire life would change. It wouldn't exist as it does now. We would be so much worse off, but maybe we'd be better off, right? Because all this technology shit is killing us. I don't know if you knew that. We're killing ourselves, you know that?
Yes. But, so, listen, there's absolutely part of the reason we're at where we're at now is because of slavery. It's part of our history. It's not a good part of our history, but it's a part of our history. No. What I'm asking is, why are you asking for nuance when it comes to European slavery, but when it comes to the slavery from the based on the history of the characters from the Woman King, that's just unacceptable and evil, and you should just boycott that?
Well, because again, I still just if you're just telling me up front these people dealt in the slave trade by some margin, I don't know how much. If you're telling me that, then of course I'm going to immediately have a problem with them, right? And I only discuss the nuance because right there, like I'm saying no to it immediately, right? Like just that right there. I don't want to make other people rich off of ideas that I think aren't the best, right? Like I'm not actively pursuing that. I'm not actively pursuing I'm not going to buy into something that I either have no interest in or would rather not exist, right? But it's not for me to say those stories exist. I'm just saying that I couldn't watch something like that because I don't want to support it really in any form. However, yes, I am asking about like the nuance in some kinds of slavery. I am indeed, but it's because maybe I'm wrong about how I should treat the African movie queen thing, the Woman King. Sorry, maybe I'm wrong about how I should be treating that. Like I will ask myself questions about that too. Maybe I should look at this a little bit differently. I've given thought to watching the movie, but it's like after I see what Viola Davis says about how if I don't watch this movie, blah blah blah, social justice, the machine that is Hollywood, they're doing things to us. I'm not going to support that just because you want me to go see your movie. Like I'm not going to bother with that. But I indulge in the conversation of the nuance of slavery because I do wonder how some things should be. Like it even with a mind like this, where you do think about how good and bad shit like this is. If you were to one day become a manager of a business, you could think hard about the kinds of treatments you would give to your employees, right? You may think a little more about that. So I don't mind, engaging these kinds of topics like the nuance of slavery. That's why I ask you if you think ethical slavery is a thing, because some people should be enslaved. I can't say who should be, but I will say that maybe some people should be because of what they are in their current life. It's not for me to say though, but I do look at that and I go, maybe there's a question that I should ask about that.
Okay, I just need to really break that down. When it comes to the slavery and the Woman King, that's wrong. But when it comes to the Founding Fathers and their slaves, you ask the question, maybe some people should be enslaved.
That's a doozy of a roundup. No. You got the tail end of what I said. You got the tail end of what I said there. Certainly, I'm pondering. So here's the thing: is when I go, hey, Woman King, I'll pan immediately, and I won't bother with it. I'm not going to tell people not to go watch it, but that's my reason I wouldn't watch it. I just don't want to bother with some shit like that. So it's because I immediately understood that about the Woman King upon my first research of it, right? So if I'm first researching it, I'm already engaging those ideas immediately about like slavery and stuff, right? And then I'm like, I've read enough. I don't care about it now because I don't want to support something like that. And then with the Founding Fathers, I don't know to what extent you're speaking at. So yes, the founding fathers, they did dabble in slavery and stuff like that. Sure, certainly, yes, they did. But it's that I don't think of slaves when I think of the founding fathers, right? I think of the Bill of Rights first, right? I think about the country being founded or whatever, right? I think about that before I think, wait, hold a minute, but they fucking use slave. Like, I don't immediately think about that, right? Like, I'm aware of the founding fathers and a number of things they've done. But with the Woman King, I'm just like, well, this movie looks a bit suspicious. And I look into it a little bit and I'm like, oh, they practice in slavery, but they're the main characters. Okay, and yeah. And I'd say the nuance of slavery, I like, hey, maybe that's worth a ponder. Maybe there's a question you can ask there about that, right? When you go into detail about the nuance of slavery, how some criminals ended up as slaves, I'm saying that would you rather the criminal be in prison or be in a new country working on a plot of land, maybe not in the best conditions, but they're not around people they used to know anymore. Like, they literally have a fresh start. It's a fucked up start, but it's fresh in some great capacity. There is a lot of mistreatment. I'm aware of buck breaking. I'm aware of all that shit. I've actually been, as a kid, on field trips. I've actually been to plantations. I've been to Virginia. Like, I've looked at those things, been with those things. I'm not saying that anything is necessarily lesser and greater in terms of evil, but just like with people freaking out because there's a woman in a leadership position or whatever, why people have a problem with stuff like that, it's all the contributing factors. So when I look at how the slavery thing starts and the process and all the little parts that go with it, I look at those little things and go, let me think about that there. I'm not promoting anything as good. I'm saying that there could be reasons why this is the better alternative. Right? Not slavery itself, but some of the little parts, right? Slavery is evil. Yes, I don't know why I have to explain that to anyone who isn't listening or is listening, but there are little parts in it that you can look at, right? And go, okay, well, maybe my mind's a little different now when I think about this thing here. You have to consider as much of it as you can while thinking about it, and not just, oh, but slavery evil, right? Like I said, I may change my mind and watch fucking Woman King. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to, just because slavery bad,
But yes, okay, slavery bad. But why do you not understand what you're doing? You're like, you keep on saying you're not justifying slavery, and then you go on this long tirade justifying slavery. That's what you're doing. You've done a lot of that. You're justifying European slavery, saying, oh, well, maybe it was necessary. Oh, there are some criminals in there. There are some bad people. You're doing this. And it's like, yes, there could be nuance to this. I'm not saying slavery is good, but you even brought up maybe slavery brought us to the point where we are at today. Okay, I'm not saying it's good. It's fucking awful. But maybe there's nuance. Maybe, and I'm saying this as someone who hasn't even seen The Woman King myself. Maybe there's nuance to it. I've heard it's a really good movie. I just find it interesting. You guys get hung up on this slave trade aspect from this movie. But like when you watch a whole bunch of founding fathers movies, which there's plenty, all of a sudden there's a if they don't like, all of a sudden you're not hung up on the slavery issue there.
So I'm justifying European slavery? What are you even talking about, dude?
That's what you've been doing. You've done that for at least 10 minutes now.
No, I'm not. What are you talking about?
How have you missed it? You're talking about how, maybe people are better off by being slaves. Oh, maybe, they brought them to a better area. Oh, maybe it built up our culture. Oh, maybe, maybe they were criminals. You've brought up so many justifications for slavery, dude.
In what capacity have I justified European slavery?
I just explained it.
Yeah, and it doesn't. You're making sense.
How are you not picking this up? These are your arguments.
It's not justification of slavery. I'm not saying that something is better or worse. I'm saying that there are little things to all the fucking everything. I'm not justifying slavery. I'm saying some things to do with parts of this and every other fucking thing ever are better than they were as a result of being a part of this process. Okay, I'm not justifying fucking anything. I'm saying that there are parts about each and every single thing that are better than they were before because of this thing that's happening. this process that's taking place. There are parts of it. There are parts of a process taking place that are better for a number of reasons than the thing happening before the process started taking place. Question for you, because yes, slavery is bad or whatever, but
okay,
question for you,
is it better that... I just want to do a quick thing, and I want to say, I just want you to look over this when you get a chance. Just think about some of the stuff you've said. I ask you to quickly just look over this when this is over, and think about some of the stuff you've said and some of the justifications you've just said, please. Okay, now you can go your question.
Yeah, so this whole thing where, again, it's little parts of a process are better than those same little parts before the process happened. Would you prefer that, say, for instance, you could just have Africa stay the same way it was, right? Would you prefer that Africa, those people who are trying to develop their country, would you prefer that they still have all of their criminals, right? And something that could end up keeping them from developing further, right? Or would you prefer that that country be free of its people, that the country is willing to use as bartering tokens, pieces, for things that visitors, are offering to them, right? Would you prefer that that part of Africa, in those early days where development is important, be rid of all of their rapists, as an example, right? Be rid of all of their criminals. Would you be okay with that and put them somewhere else where they can start a new life? I'm not saying that every single one of those people that left with those Europeans were like this, but of those people, some of them I understand were criminals. Okay, would you prefer them away from a country that is still trying to develop in peace? Would you want that? Yes, they don't just disappear, but a lot changes for the people that are using them as bartering tokens. People who are taking them with them, they have manpower, and those same people are going to be put through a lot of shit, right? And do start new lives. They do start new lives in America. The ones that made it away from all that, right? I mean, isn't it better for Africa to not have people that they were willing to offer up as currency to foreigners? That's just a very simple question for you.
Okay, so I want to make it clear. What you just asked me was essentially, isn't it okay that Europeans took slaves from Africa because most are criminals? That's what you just asked me.
Not most. I didn't say most criminals.
Okay, some. The implication was most. Because your implication was, they grabbed them from Africa, therefore, those are criminals, and that's fine.
Don't say that it's the implication, because I'm not trying to imply that most of them. But to you're the one forcing that implication. I'm not doing that.
I am inferring it, and you're implying it. That's how implications work.
You're inferring that, and I'm implying it, right? I mean, what are you trying to do? I'm not doing that at all.
You just said that some are criminals, and therefore, isn't it okay that they were enslaved and brought to a better place?
Yeah, it's some, not most. I'm saying it's very specifically some. I'm using very specific words with you, right? Because I want to get across precisely what I'm trying to say. I'm speaking in very plain terms, and I want to make sure that you understand what I'm saying. I'm only saying what I'm trying to say to you. That's it. Like I told you, no tricks. No tricks here.
So what if black people grabbed European slaves? That would be worse than Europeans grabbing African American slaves. That's your argument, right?
Why would they do that? Why would they think that?
I mean, that's your argument. Your argument was that it's actually not as bad because Europeans went to Africa and there's some criminals there, so it's not as bad they grabbed slaves from there. That's your argument.
What are you referring to when you say blacks grabbing Europeans up?
I'm just asking you if you think the reverse is fine, because there's some Europeans that are criminals as well.
Get the fucking criminals out of here! What the hell do I want them for? What the, like...
Yeah, but how do you... So you're essentially saying slavery is not as bad if Europeans come over to Africa and grab some of those, because some of those are criminals. And I'm saying, well, what if Africa came and grabbed some European slaves, and that should be equal because some of them are criminals as well.
Yeah, if it was an agreement, then like what power? Do I want to fight for the lives of people that are being used as currency? Maybe. But I mean, again, it just is. Are they offering people up as currency? Yes or no? And wasn't an agreement. And how many were slaves? I mean, how many were criminals? I guess it would be kind of nice. If people are just enslaved, I mean, I can only do so much. But I mean, I'm not arguing that it would be better or worse if the opposite happened. I would never say that.
Okay, I'm gonna be totally blunt with you. Here's something I'm noticing. You keep on saying that I need to think critically, but what I'm seeing from you is very little critical thinking. And what I'm actually seeing is that you meander a lot, and maybe somebody might see that and interpret it as critical thinking, but you kind of just meander a lot. You add lots of extra context that honestly not even really needed. Brevity is the soul of wit, or whatever the expression is. Essentially taking a half hour to ask a question is not the same as critically thinking over it. You do understand that, right?
What are you talking about, man?
I'm simply asking you to think critically about this stuff, and I'm seeing very little or critical thinking from you. I'm seeing very little.
You're not listening to me, my guy. You're not listening.
I've heard a lot.
Jesus fucking Christ. What are we gonna do with you, man? Can I ask you a question, Robert?
Absolutely.
Like, really though, what did you want to be when you grew up? Like, what did you actually want to be when you grew up? When you grew up, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Paleontologist and later a filmmaker.
Okay. Are you doing anything like that right now? I mean, the filmmaker thing, I kind of see that you're sort of going down that lane. But have you looked into the paleontology thing at all?
Not really. It's something I was really into when I was younger, but not as much now.
Yeah.
Your goals change as you grow up. Your goals when you're a little kid and your goals when you're 40 are different. Now my goal is more to just be a good father and support my kids, and if I can make this YouTube thing work, that'd be nice too.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. That's really cool. I think you should find a way to really center yourself, because I don't want to say this to be insulting, but it seems like you can't understand me. I'm not saying that to be mean, I promise. But I feel
I'm
like
not sure if you can understand yourself if you go through some of the logical question or logical some of your logical.
I think
through lines to a lot of the things you say. They're just not there.
I think about a lot of stuff all the time, like all the fucking time. Because again, I'm a writer.
Well, I would stress thinking about stuff and critically thinking about stuff are two different things.
Well, again, I have been doing it. That's why I'm saying that. Again, not to be rude, it's like you can't understand me. I do mean can't, by the way. And I bring this up because I think this is because you're going to have this happen to you a lot with people that will present the same arguments I'm presenting to you, because these are the arguments, right? And you don't have to understand me, right? I feel like you really should find yourself a better focus, like a direction. Like, we do the versus stuff again. All this reactive content stuff. I know that you want to stream with people and go back and forth, do a debate thing, but you're not going to be able to understand people that are on my side, which I don't really have a side unless you are talking about the side of the good writing and shit, right? Storytelling and media. I'm on that. That's my thing that I care about quite a lot. And maybe it's my fault that you can't understand me. But I feel like if you're going to be doing anything on the platform, I don't feel like you should really focus on any of the guys that you're focused on right now that say all this stuff in Gamergate. And the reason I say that, Comicsgate, Gamergate, the reason I say that is because it's going to be a back and forth thing. And doing the reactive content thing is only going to do so much for you. Not to say that you shouldn't focus on them because they're saying racist, sexist things or whatever. I feel like if you really care about, and I mean this from the heart because I'm trying to do this with my channel, I'm trying to keep it focused. If you focus on just the stuff you care about, right? Just that stuff, you're going to be a lot happier, right? I want the best for myself and my content and my people. If you're going to be here, give yourself less headache and don't waste your time as much because these guys, you won't be able to, there will always be an impasse. There always will be. It's not to say that anyone is stubborn, right? You're confident about what you believe just as much as I'm confident about what I think, okay? And that's just how it is. We can't change each other's minds. I don't, because I've done as much as I can. I go at length on stuff a lot. And I do it for a reason. And I can't get through to you. I'm sorry. I did try. I do apologize for that. Maybe it's my fault. But like, there's so much you could do better on. You can improve in a lot of ways. I know that you, out of respect for your stream, you had something else you wanted to talk about. As much as I sort of laughed at you and you got frustrated at me and a bunch of other stuff, I really did enjoy our time together. Listen, I'm going to be critical of you for as long as I feel I should be. I'm not going to make you the focus of my channel. I'm going to do the one video, Cultural Kill Shot number 2. I'm going to do the one, and I'm probably not going to be revisiting your stuff anytime soon again, although I will check in on you from time to time. If you want to talk in the future, that's real cool. I think we should do that. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it's better for you to talk to other people. But I enjoyed our time together. And maybe you had other questions. I don't know. Would you like to end our segment here, or I don't know?
Oh, I actually have a fair amount, but yeah, no, I really want you to critically look over some of the stuff you said here, because, dude, like, you keep on saying you're not defending slavery when you are. You're defending European slavery. You're finding excuses for why it's okay. And then, all of a sudden the Woman King is evil because that has slavery. You talk about nuance, then you ignore nuances in certain circumstances. I implore you to think critically. When you see, like, the whole point of my channel is this, well, the whole point. My whole point of my channel is talk about movie and nerd stuff. But when I see on the YouTube algorithm that all the movie and nerd spaces are pretty much dominated by people like Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, etc., that's a problem, and I refuse to ignore that. And I'm going to call that out. When I see these guys constantly calling out women and minorities for simply not serving their normal role, I think that's wrong, and I'm going to call that out. And yeah, I'm a small guy, but I'm fine doing that. I've taken a lot of hate, and I'm happy doing that. And yeah, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Well, I again, not to be insulting, I really do hope that it makes you happy. I do, because I don't feel like this is the place for you. Because I gotta be real with you, which I'm hoping you've seen me as honest this entire time. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but really, people, when they see people who are outsiders to your channel, they don't see you as a strong person. They just really do not. People have a hard time with your voice and a couple other things. And it's not to be shitty to you. I don't want you feeling bad, but just as just a tip, because this could help you. If you want to improve your voice a bit more, I think it's good that you're doing the YouTube thing because it helps you with speaking a bit better. And that's I think really good for you if you want to be a speaker and all that. But listen to, like, if you have if there's a voice that you really like someone's voice, like a celebrity or something, like, listen to how they talk. Maybe pick up like an accent somewhere that goes with your voice, because I'm a traveled person, so I've got my accent sounds weird all the time. Maybe try to pick up an accent.
So you want to talk about my voice instead of actually talking about the points I make?
Oh, I feel we're probably just closing this out. I just wanted to give you a few bits of advice. That's all. That I'm hoping will help you, because you can improve in a lot of ways. I don't know what to engage with you further on. I've already told you that I'm not justifying fucking European fucking anything. I'm not doing that.
A lot though.
No, I did not. This is what I mean.
Rewatch this, dude. You did, and I hope you see it. I want you to critically think about a lot of things you're seeing. Critically think about why you're so triggered by the Woman King and the slavery in that, but not triggered by European slavery in the same way. Critically think about that.
I've already explained to you why. I've already done that. I did that. But I see the thing is, I explain these things at length because I know that if you don't understand it, you should have as much of it explained as I can manage, right? Within reason. I've already explained.
A long explanation is not the same as a good explanation, though. I encourage you to critically think about why you have a differentiation between these two things.
There's a reason that you don't value long and short answers. I mean, I don't know what that reason is.
I'm fine with a long answer, but not a meandering one.
It's not. Yeah, I may mumble and stuff here and there. I mean, I may do that.
I'm even fine with that, but there's lots of meandering, lots of repeating your point.
I mean, it's whatever. I guess I can't have you see it any other way. It's fine. But no, and to just answer, I guess that whole thing about rewatching things. I typically rewatch my stuff. I am always going over how I'm arguing things, and I know that it's a common thing for humans to, when they're greeted with new information, that they are confused and or they are angry, and that happens to everyone. It happens to me sometimes, but you're not. This is all the stuff that I've said about like the European, this and that, the nuances of the whole transaction, right? If you want to talk about like morality with a bunch of shit out there, like with media pieces and other things like that, like I'm trying to go over some of the stuff because there's white, black, and gray with some transactional shits, right? Like the source, like people who really like.
What if I
like
told
Tesla?
you there's no white and black? They're just gray. There's just different levels of gray, and pretty much everything.
Well, if you're fine with saying that, then you shouldn't really be surprised that I'm arguing some of the nuance of slavery. Then.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why you aren't willing to, like, okay, so you want to argue nuance of slavery. Why are you only applying that to Europeans and not Africans?
In what way, though?
I mean, I feel like we're retreading this. But yeah, no, so to encourage you to critically think about this, why are you saying we need to look at the nuance of slavery when we talk about Europeans enslaving Africans? But when we talk about Africans enslaving Europeans or pretty much anybody else, all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's evil and that's unjustified.
I'm going to give you a good answer here. Hold on. I know my brain is small. Give me a moment. Oh man, my small brain is hurting me. Oh no.
Okay, I want you to critically think about why you have to think about that. Because right now your head's swirling because...
Okay, hold on, Chief. I got you. Let me unswirl the brain. Yeah, my whole thing with the whole pointing it out one thing this way, one thing other the fucking way, right? The only reason I'm seeing any kind of difference is because when the Europeans came up to the fucking shore to offer goods, they weren't offering humans as, barter chips, right? And again, a good number of those same humans, from what I understand, they
break
are
this down.
offering
It's the
up
same thing.
criminals.
It's all nuanced. It's all levels of gray.
Yeah, so then you would agree then that some parts of slavery aren't that bad then, huh?
No, I would agree it's all fairly bad, but I mean there is nuances to the whole thing.
Right, and so if there are shades of gray, then if you're saying that there are shades of gray, there's no black and white, but there are shades of gray, then you're saying that the flexibility of the trade itself can be evil, and more than likely the majority of the slave trade process is evil. But if the whole process can be chalked up to different shades of gray, then you're saying some parts of slavery are less evil. You're actually saying that yourself, and you are actually justifying slavery in some small ways as well. If I am justifying slavery right here, like going over the nuances of the whole fucking transaction shit, if I'm doing that, then you're saying that there are just different shades of gray, no black and white, and with all things, including slavery, you can't back out now, baby boy. It was slavery too. You are also arguing some of the same stuff I am, but the whole thing about, you're justifying slavery, I'm saying there are little parts to it that you can look at a little bit weird sometimes, right? And you're saying the same thing. So if I'm justifying slavery, so the fuck are you?
Okay, so you're missing the point. I'm asking you, if you're willing to look at the nuance of European slavery, why aren't you willing to look at the nuance of African slavery?
Because up front, the African slavery, that was the first thing I had seen, and that was the first thing that I took away from looking into all my little research things or whatever, right? So I had that in mind just about the whole time I was aware of the Woman King. I looked into the movie almost fucking immediately, right? Now with the fellas over here, the Europeans, again, they weren't offering humans as trade, right? They were not offering that as part of any of their trades, from what I understand. I could be wrong. You fucking go ahead and take a look for yourself. But it's that people are offering different things, right? If my little sister is offering you a nice birthday gift that doesn't hurt you when you use it, and I offer you a live bear trap, right? And you hurt yourself in the fucking bear trap, but the cute little bunny that my little sister gave you, that's going to make you feel better. I mean, if I'm offering you one thing and she's offering you the other thing, am I a little more fucked up for offering you a live bear trap, or is she equally fucked up for offering a gift in the first place?
Okay, yeah, I mean, we're in circles right now, but
we're not,
please, critically think about why are you saying, why are you saying the slavery done by Africans is flat out bad, but why are you saying slavery done by Europeans? Oh, well, that has nuance, and we have to think about that. I want you to critically think about that, and I'm not asking you to answer on stream. I'm asking you to critically think about that. Why do you have that separation? Why are you looking at them differently? Because it's all slavery.
Because, just like you said, there are different shades of gray. Hey, the guys, in contrast, if you're putting both these people right next to each other, right? The slaver versus the guy with the canvas.
All right,
shit, right?
So you want to argue that Europeans had their reasons, and maybe slavery's still bad, but they had their reasons. I can guarantee you the Africans had reasons as well.
But would the Europeans have the reasons for what?
You're arguing that, slavery's bad, but Europeans had their reasons, they need stuff built cheaply, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I'm going to tell you that Africa had slavery as well, and there was reasons for that as well. Yeah, and I can't fucking really contest either of them, but I can tell you that those guys over there, way back when, they weren't thinking on morality at all. They were thinking strictly on business stuff. They were living in a rough, savage world where things weren't as built tall as they are now. Okay? Morality wasn't really thought on then, and the agreement was struck up between two parties. I'm not saying that the Founding Fathers are good or bad. I'm not saying that those tribal people are good or bad, but they all did bad shit in their time. Yeah, so, Europeans do bad shit in their time too, dude.
Yeah, well, but what do you... I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to get from me with us discussing this. I understand that both are doing fucked up things.
Yes, I'm trying to get you to think critically. Why are you drawing this line? Why are you saying, slavery over on this side is nuanced, but slavery over here is bad? Why the nuance on one side, not the other? Why are you critically going to think about one, but on the other one be like, oh no, that's just bad, dismiss that? It's just, I want you to think about why you have that separate opinion.
I've thought about this critically already. I've done it 5 times or something in this conversation here since you brought it up. Again, one person brought human slaves as bartering pieces. The other person brought cannons and shit to the trade. Now, because of that, they're both fucked up. But one person offered humans and the other one didn't, right? And at the same time, I'm not saying that there can't be nuance with that thing, right? With what happened with those slave trades on Africa's side. I've already said that there were criminals that were used during the trade, right? I've already said that there are, so I understand that there's nuance on that side as well. right? I've already asked you about the whole ethical slavery thing, right? I've already asked you about that. There's nuance on both sides, and I understand that. What are you trying to argue here? Because I understand
Dude,
all these
I'm not even trying to argue. I'm just begging that you think about this. I don't even know if there's much more to say. I just want you to think about, look at your own biases and ask why you're drawing this line. Why are you saying, this slavery is bad, but, there might be reasons. And then this other slavery is just flat out bad, and there's no reason. I would just want you to think about that. Why are you drawing that line?
What bias do I have?
Dude, I don't want to shut you off. I genuinely want you to critically think about this.
No, what bias do I have? Why don't you tell me what bias you think I have?
Do you want me to bluntly say it?
Yes, please do.
It's pretty fucking racist.
What is racist?
You're identifying with the Europeans, but not with the Africans in any way. You're willing to look past the slavery for the Europeans because of nuance, but not the Africans.
Wait, so in what way do you want me to agree with the Africans on anything? And what specifically? Because I've already said that I understand that some of those people who were used in the slave trade, they were not all good, and some of them were not bad. Okay, not all of them were good, and all of them were bad. And I'm like, what do you want me to actually engage here? Because I'm not seeing what you want me to say or think on.
Well, I mean, like I said, your whole argument is that you're unwilling to watch The Woman King. God, I can't believe that was the whole origin of this. You're unwilling to watch The Woman King because they did slavery, and slavery is bad. And I just asked you, well, what about European slavery? And you're like, oh, well, there's nuance to that. And it's like, there's nuance to all of it. All of it is nuanced. They all have their reasons for doing their shit. And it's not good. Everybody has reasons for doing their shit. Geeks and Gamers, Critical Drinker, Nerdrotic, they have reasons for doing their shit. It's to make money on the YouTube algorithm, to pump out content. Everyone has reasons for doing their shit. And just saying, there's reasons for this one side, but the other side, doesn't. And just happening to notice that the side you're looking at the nuance of is the white side, and the side you're unwilling to look at the nuance of is the black side. It's a little telling, dude.
What do you, oh my god, dude. What nuance am I missing? Because you aren't explaining what you mean when you say specific nuance. Like I've already gone over the nuance with each of the things, right? Like as best I can. I don't know is there some other rock I should turn over? Like what do you?
I'm asking you to critically think about this.
And I do, and I am, and I'm asking you very specifically why. What nuance thing am I ignoring?
I mean, I've explained it as clearly as you can.
No, you haven't, because I've been engaging this with you, right? And I've already said that there are little things to do with each of those things, right? There are little things to do with each side of those things. I consider nuance already, but you're not telling me what nuance I should be looking at.
I've already explained it, and if you aren't picking it up, I would say that's your problem.
Okay, because you must not have. Because I don't know what you even mean when you say nuance at this point, because...
You can lead a horse with water, but you can't make it drink. So, yeah, I mean, this is a good conversation. I think you showed more of yourself than you really intended. I really want you to look over this and critically think about a lot of the things you've said, because it's very troubling. I also, I would ask you,
You're still not answering the question. You're still not answering the question. What nuance, specifically, are you talking about?
How often
what nuance are you talking about?
Dude, you're willing to look at the nuances when white people enslave people, but you're not willing to look at the nuance when black people enslave people.
Okay, well, what about those things? I haven't said that white people, black people, there's no difference between the slaveries involved, except for maybe the location, the skin color, the circumstances. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I never have.
But yeah, we've gone over this a lot. I want you to look over this and think about what you've said, because it's troubling. It comes from a mindset. It comes from a mindset that honestly comes from a lot of these channels that I'm going against, and I just want you to critically think about it. Think about the things you've said, because a lot of these channels lead you down these paths of the things you've been saying right here. To think of nuance when it comes to white people, but just to discard people of color or minorities, and it's
my
not
thinking has
good.
nothing to do with them. my thinking has nothing to do with the people you're thinking about. I have
It's the
nothing to do
same
with that
mindset. It's the same mindset. Plus, you spend a lot of your time defending them. So it's the same mindset. And I asked you to think about that.
They make more sense than you. Why wouldn't I defend them if I were to have to do that? I mean, I would still defend you anyway. I believe in defending your enemies also. Okay? It's but you don't know me. It's okay. All right, I'm not going to fault you for that. But it's just kind of silly. I'm not here on anyone's behalf, and all of the words I've used are specific and particular, which is why I sometimes take a second to actually say what I mean to say. I mean, I don't know what I have to even try to do to have you understand like what I'm saying. I don't. It doesn't make sense to me that I'm having this much difficulty with you.
The problem is I'm asking if you understand what you're saying. That's the problem, because you don't seem to even understand what you're saying. You're arguing nuance and then discard nuance in the next breath. I don't think you're critically thinking about any of this stuff.
I'm discarding
it. I ask you to.
What am I I don't understand how I'm discounting or discarding anything. What am I missing? I've gone over this as best I can. At least I'd like to think. Yeah, because I don't know what qualifiers you have for me to make sense to you.
No, that's the thing. You are making sense to me, and it's disturbing. Like I said, it's the mindset that comes from a lot of the people who watch these channels. These channels are gateways to this type of mindset that you are demonstrating right now, and it's a problem, and that's why I speak against it.
They don't apply to me. They don't apply to me like you'd probably think they do. I don't get all of my talking point shit from them. Yes, I've listened to them, but at the same time, I wouldn't even know what to say to some of the questions that you have about like just people reacting a certain way to some stuff if I hadn't listened to these people. And that's just what it is. Listening to people is important, and I do it a lot. I do this quite a lot. I'm always trying to learn more stuff.
I would ask you to maybe be a bit more selective on who you listen to and who you trust, because this mindset you're going on is very troubling. It's you're not going down a good path, honestly, if you continue down this mindset.
See, here's the thing: is I used to be a leftist, right? I don't know if you're able to tell that. I used to be a leftist. I'm now center right, and this happened because some of the same people that I was helping with, for instance, Obama's re-election, we won. Howdy do. But I used to be someone that made a lot less sense, and then I started to realize I was being abused by a lot of these people, and this is why I say about listening to folks. I've listened intently to everyone, and I'm not allying myself with anyone. Maybe as someone in your audience may think that that's what's happening, but I've rationed reason. A lot of the things I'm hearing people, and again, I've been studying people for close to 20 years. I'm not with anyone because I've been led astray too many times. I refuse to put up with that. Okay? Now, it may be sounding like other people to you, but a great part of the reason that's the case is because they make more sense. They just do. Bar all the ideas about them being racist or sexist or whatever, I'm not tuned into that stuff, right? I'm not saying that they are good or bad people for anything you're aware of that they've done, but judging from the trajectory of everything that's been happening lately, why wouldn't I be able to listen to them and listen to you and see for myself that they make sense more than you do? I know that you can't answer that.
Give me an argument that you listen to them and you say, hey, that makes sense.
An argument of theirs. Okay. I'll shoot you up with I'll give you an older example, and I'll come a bit current then. So I'll give you two examples there. Way back when I was a much younger atheist, and still I'm an atheist. But back when I was a younger atheist, there's this guy, T.J. Kirk. You know him, amazing atheist. He had pointed out that the people on The View are fucked up, right? I don't know if Sharon Osbourne's on anymore. I don't think she is. But I think it was back when Sharon Osbourne. Okay. It was some show like that. Was it Sharon? I can't quite remember who it was. It's been so many fucking years. But this bit where it's like a talk show panel, ladies, whatever. They were laughing about the fact that there was a guy who broke into this woman's business, and I think it was that they broke into a woman's business. Like, it's been a while. So they broke into a woman's business. This guy did, or it was something that happened between lovers. It was like a lovers' quarrel, and it was something about how it was like a lovers' quarrel. She cut off the dude's dick and threw it down the garbage disposal, and I guess turned on the garbage disposal. And the ladies were laughing about how it's so funny how the dick in the garbage disposal, imagine that thing spinning around. And TJ, the amazing atheist, he had pointed out that it's not very kind that they would say that. Like, would it change how they would behave, talk about this if it was like a man cut off the pussy lips or the clitoris of a woman and chucked that in the garbage disposal, and people started laughing about that. Like, that's one of those examples, right? Is some of these guys that I'm aware of, right? They have gone about how this isn't right. That's really fucked up that would happen. People shouldn't be on television saying shit like this because it is fucked up.
Okay, so somebody on The View or The Talk said something cringy, and that's bad. I mean, I agree. That's fairly cringe. I want nobody should have that happen to them. That's fairly cringe. How does that so what? You change your entire political philosophy because of that? I mean, what's your point?
That's just one brick in the Great Wall. That's just one of many bricks. And no, it's
I
not
mean,
that
how's that
cringe.
even a brick? That's just like women on a show doing cringe stuff. I'm not a huge fan of The View or The Talk, but what?
It's not the focus wasn't that it was cringy, but that
I mean, do you know the number of shitty things said on Fox News or One American News Network or something like that? I mean, Jesus.
I don't watch those guys. I don't watch any of that shit. It doesn't make sense for me to do that. No, it's not that it was cringy. It's that the point was, if men had been on television stuff saying, "Oh, isn't it funny that this guy cut off this woman's pussy lips and threw in the garbage disposal, and they started flapping around when the disposal was turned on?" Like, it's just, that's one of those things that really show me, because I thought some of these people, I thought they were good people, and I see them like laughing about someone having been they've had their dick.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if it necessarily makes them evil or anything. It just means they did something kind of cringe. We've all done cringe in our lives. You've done quite a bit of cringe tonight.
I've never cut off anyone's body parts and thrown them in a.
Well, no, we aren't.
Trash disposal.
I mean, we aren't even talking about that. You're talking about your issue of
I'm
joking
talking about that. Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody's saying that's a good thing, dude.
Older thing.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Maybe they were implying it's a good thing in that joking thing, and that's not good. But I mean, I don't think anybody would say that's a good thing.
No, it's that those ladies on that show and the audience, they were all laughing about a man having his dick lopped off and thrown in the garbage disposal and shredded with the garbage disposal.
Okay, people say cringe stuff. What's your point? Lots of people say cringe stuff. There's a whole network of cringe stuff.
We would not. Why are you making excuses for this shit, dude? Like, if it were a bunch of men on television laughing about cutting a woman's fucking clitoris off and throwing it in the trash, people would be in outrage. But these ladies on the show, they can get away with
I'm not
laughing
making
about
excuses.
the fact
I'm trying to figure out why you think it's the end of the world.
You're saying it's just cringe, and I'm not saying I think it's the end of the world. Pay attention to me, okay? It's not that I'm saying it's the end of the world.
I mean, this is obviously important.
You are saying that they're just saying cringe things. That is what you're saying. And I'm telling you that it would be a lot different and a lot worse if it was a bunch of dudes on that panel that said, "Yeah, I cut a woman's things off," and the entire room was laughing, right? There would be calls for those men's heads and their fucking career. Okay? That's an old example of stuff that got me to start paying attention. Okay? There are numerous things that have happened. For instance, Jimmy Kimmel's show. For some reason, they had it on Jimmy Kimmel's show.
I'm not saying it's good, but it's a cultural difference. I think it'd be foolish to assume that cultural differences don't exist.
But in what way is it? What thing specifically are you saying cultural difference about?
Okay, so you want to go into the nuance of cultural differences. Okay, so men are typically in positions of power. Specifically, white men are in positions of power. So for women who aren't typically in... No, very relevant. It's the culture we live in. It's the culture we live in. It's not irrelevant. How is the culture we live in irrelevant?
No, it's irrelevant that white mention of
Dude,
white.
I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying it's the culture we live in. That's the difference.
You said cultural difference, and I said okay, whatever. And then you said you mentioned white men for some reason. And I
well,
said
you
it's
didn't even let me finish the
irrelevant.
point. So, the culture we live in is primarily dominated by white men. So men are in positions of power.
Irrelevant.
Dude, I'm not even finishing my point. I will mute you if I have to. White men are in positions of power. So it's typical for people who are not white men to make fun of white men because white men are in positions of power. That's the cultural difference. I'm not saying what they did was good, but there's a cultural difference in the two. For men to joke about cutting off a woman's vagina, that's way less acceptable in our culture. I'm not saying that's necessarily even good. I'm just saying there's a cultural difference. It's punching up and punching down, essentially.
That's cute. Again, it's irrelevant.
I'm not even saying it's fair, but it's the culture we live in. The culture we live in is always irrelevant, or always relevant.
No, it's the mention of white men in power is irrelevant.
What are you going to argue that white men don't have 99% of the power in our culture?
Why would I ever agree to that?
Because it's a fact.
How?
Do research. Name a billionaire that isn't a white man.
Oprah Winfrey. What the fuck is wrong with you?
She might be a billionaire. Okay. Cool. Name another.
What's the point?
My point is that most of the people in power, even to this day, are white men. Why do you want to argue this point? This is obvious.
So, okay, let me think here.
How many white presidents have there been versus not white presidents?
It's irrelevant.
Well, we're talking about who has the most power in our culture. So being a president is a powerful position, so it's very relevant.
Yeah, I mean, just because you see people in certain positions doesn't mean that it was necessarily unfairly earned. You can go and say, look at the predominantly X-gender Y race thing going on here with industries. Yeah, that's just the thing that's going on because that's all I have seen, and I'm gonna cite fucking research will tell you that there's majority men. It's like you just said we live in what you said. What kind of society do we live in?
A white
meritocracy.
I never said we lived in a meritocracy.
Yes, you did.
Rags words. No, those were rags words. When did I say that?
No,
I never said that.
You said that. You said that we live in a meritocracy earlier in the stream.
I never
and
said
now
that.
You're saying it's a white man's world.
I never said
now
that.
You're fucking saying it's a... Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
See, that's what I'm saying. You gotta pay attention,
I swear to God. Rags. I was quoting rags when I said that, dude.
You said it. We weren't even talking about rags, I'm pretty sure. And even then, how can you say we don't live in a meritocracy?
Because we don't. We clearly don't. Because then
so
things would actually be
all
equal.
The white men. All the white men, right? All the white men out there haven't earned their position most of the time.
I didn't say that.
No, that's what I'm asking you, because you're saying it's a white man's world. We don't live in a meritocracy, you say, right? Is that what you're saying? Because meritocracy doesn't... A meritocracy does not...
Dude.
A meritocracy does not just say that we believe in equality around here. Equality of outcome, if you do the same shit as other people, equality of outcome, yes. You know, it is illegal in this country for women to be paid less than men, right? Yeah. Sorry, like, I don't necessarily
why on average do women make less than men? Do you understand that study? Why?
Okay, so my understanding, and I've seen this for myself, I'm not going to say this is just the way it is, this is how things are in the world, but you can look at your studies as well. You'll see this for yourself, I'm sure. Maybe not, depends on the studies you look at, I don't know. But women, what I've seen, and what I understand of the world, what I've been witness to, they take jobs that aren't as intensive. They take jobs that aren't as labor intensive. They take jobs where their chances of dying on the floor are much lesser. Just there's not as much risk to the jobs that they tend to take. right?
Well,
how many
what
how many
about
women
manager jobs though? What about high-paying positions? Why don't they take more of those?
Want to take more of those? I don't know what's keeping them from getting to that point. I don't know if they are lacking initiative. How many single mothers we're talking
It's
about here?
almost like they don't get hired for those positions.
Well, I'm not. It's not for me to say, and I don't really think it's for anyone else to say quite what's happening. I mean, maybe.
Well, maybe we should be asking questions.
I mean, yeah, that would be cool. That would be a good idea.
I mean, they did a study and found, they would turn in 2 identical resumes, one with a white person name and one with a black person name, being the only thing that changed. And they found almost across the board the white person would get hired almost all the time, the black person almost never.
And who was responsible for the hiring? Who was responsible? One person being fucked up is not
probably a white person.
Health. Did you say probably a white person?
Yeah, but I mean, here's the crazy thing I'm about ready to unleash on you. Black people are in our society as well, and black people might even be less tempted to hire a black person than a white person, because they're impacted by our society as well.
Sure, I'm sure, and I'm not going to say some stupid shit like that we aren't surrounded by evil. I'm not going to say that each individual person, I'm not going to lie to you and say that we're all good people or we're all bad people. We have the potential in us to be that racist piece of shit. We have the potential to be the guy that cures cancer or the woman that cures osteoporosis. We have the potential in us to do those things. It's not for me to say where anyone should belong.
Why are there less women in positions of power than men? Because there's plenty of positions of power that aren't factory work. There's plenty of positions of power that are... Most positions of power aren't dangerous at all. Most of it's just office shit, CEO shit. Why is there less women than men?
I mean, if I were to say, because I don't know every single person, but if I were to guess just from what I've seen and the studies I've been privy to, that it has a lot to do with people not actively pursuing a lot of that stuff. That's
so your argument is that women just have less drive than men, that women don't want to be as successful
Potentially
as men?
Potentially they do. It's not for me to say that. It's not for me to say that about anyone. I can only really speak for myself. This is just of the studies I've seen and what I've witnessed, that is what people prefer. That's what men and women prefer to do. Some prefer riskier stuff so they make more money, so they can afford that.
Listen, man, even the riskier stuff doesn't make you that much money. And to make the big money, that's not risky stuff at all. The rich guys don't do risky stuff.
Well, I mean, sure, but there are plenty of tradesmen who own like many acres of property, and because they've been with masonry, as an example, for 20 years, or Sal has been an electrician in Vegas for 43 years, changing light bulbs, and he's been through a lot. And he makes a lot of money because of his risky job. It just does depend on each individual how much they're willing to apply themselves. I can't speak to what degree the average.
So your argument is that just women apply themselves less than men?
I mean, potentially that's what's happening. Potentially that is what's happening. Just by the sheer fact that we can roll dice, there's the potentiality that that's the case.
All right, so let me ask you, and I want you to critically think about this one. Seriously think about this one. So, do you think women have less of a drive because A, that's just biological, women are weaker, or B, society?
I answer C. You know what my answer is to that? Because I don't
even know what C would be. One's biology and one's pretty much everything else. So what would C be?
Well, this is my C. I'm writing in my own answer. Everyone desires something different.
So you don't even want to answer.
That is the answer. Everyone desires something different. That is the answer. You desire whatever you desire. I desire whatever I desire. I'm probably better at being a bottom in a relationship than you are, but I would have no idea. You know what I mean? I'm probably worse at rocket science than you are, but of course you'd be better at that than me because you understand theoretical rocket science. So it just depends. Each individual person is different. You have to understand that. We're not a collective. It's not a fucking hive mind, guy. Okay? Everyone's different. You're wired different from me. I'm wired different from you. We all have different backgrounds. Some of us have more drive than others. Serena Williams is a good example of someone who did go to some length. I don't know. There are people in sports who have gotten where they got because of their conditions and surroundings. Again, like each place is different. People are a product of their environment. It's not just because you're a woman or I'm a man. It has to do with everything considering where we came from to get to this point where we're adults.
Exactly.
To do with gender.
It has to do with our society, how we're built up. It has to do with how we view women in society. That's a huge part of it. If we viewed women and men as doing equal things, women and men would largely shoot for equal things. And then we'd still have to deal with the issue of them still not being able to get hired because, yes, that's how it works.
I'm not going to pretend that putting my imagination on someone else instantly creates the dream world for Kirby to fuck around in.
No, but it's a step. It's a step. Because, listen, we can't magically make the perfect world. We have to do it in steps.
We have to all gather our energies together to defeat Cell and Frieza. Let's destroy the bad world by all singing fucking Kumbaya together under the Aurora Borealis during fucking Ides of October. It's just wishful thinking isn't a wish in one hand, shit in the other one. See which one fills first.
We're not talking about wishful thinking. We can't just wave a hand and have the perfect society. Do you think society is perfect right now?
That's exactly what I'm fucking saying to you. So we can't all just go, I hope Jenny can fucking make it.
Exactly. I'm arguing we have to do it in steps. We can't just jump to it. We have to do it in steps. And I encourage every good step we can, and you're actively fighting against them.
Yeah, if there are people that don't want to succeed, they will choose not to succeed. It is personal drive. No one is really amped up after seeing The Blind Side.
So women are more likely to get rejected from these roles because they're less seen in these roles. So that's
what you think is happening.
It's a bias. It's society, dude. There's a bias that women are less qualified for these roles, so it's tougher for them to get these roles. There's an absolute bias. How can you not say that? And you look at the shit Kathleen Kennedy gets. Kathleen Kennedy
Kennedy fucking sucks.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't.
Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.